Hello, this is Attorney Carter Budwell, and this is the last video in our questionnaire video series. And this is dealing with the statement of financial affairs in your questionnaire. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So we want to know other places you've lived in the last few years. Again, this is just to show the court that we're using the proper exemptions, because if you've lived in states other than Virginia, we need to be able to use the right exemption to help you. And then also ask, just to make sure there's no community property issues, just let us know if you've lived in any of these states in here within the last 8 years. Now, income, on this first section here for your income, this would be you, and if your spouse is filing, your spouse. But really what we're looking at here is what you made in the last 3 years. So right now we're in 2021. So your income for 2021 would be listed here in this top line. 2020 would be listed here, and 2019 here. And the best way to find your income for those years for 2019 and 2020, or whatever subsequent years we might be in as you watch this video, is to look at your last couple years of taxes. For the most current year, probably the best place to look is your most recent paycheck. And this can come from, your job, or if you're operating your own business. Now, other sources of income. So this can include any source of income that does not come from your primary job. So good examples are retirement, stimulus checks that we've received during this pandemic, family support, child support, things like that, Social Security, any of these things. And if you have too many of them, just list all, and then how much you received total. Now, this next question here is just to make sure the court wants to verify that you're not treating any creditors differently than one another. They want to make sure you're not playing favorites. So they're asking if you've paid any creditors, not including bankruptcy attorneys, but more than $600 in the last 90 days before you filed. Usually the most common things that I see on here are your mortgage or a car payment. So just list the name of the creditor and when you paid them, how much you paid, and the balance you still owed. Now, this is only for individual creditors. So let's say you paid more than $600 to all your creditors, but no individual creditor received more than $600. Then you don't need to fill this section out. And then it does ask this question about non-consumer debts, but a good example of this would be like criminal restitution or something like that. So if you paid more than $6,000 in that type of debt in the last 90 days, almost always the answer to this question has been no. Now, the next question wants to make sure that you're not preferring relatives over other creditors. So it wants you to list any payments you've made in the last year to an insider. Like a relative, a business partner, and their relatives, so business partners, relatives, and such. But basically, any payments that you've made to someone with a close relationship with you. Now, I want to emphasize that this is dealing with a payment, not a financial gift. So if you gave a family member some money as a gift, you don't need to list that here. But probably the most common example I would see in here would be if you rent from a family member. So, if you pay rent to a family member, you can list that, and that's not going to get you in trouble. Or if you had money that you owed to a family member, you want to go ahead and list any payments you made. And now, just as a heads up, you do not want to pay more money than disproportionately to your family members than to your other creditors, because that can get you in a little bit of trouble with the court. Then they also want to ask about any payments or transfers of property that you made in the last year that benefited an insider. So maybe instead of paying an insider, you paid a bill for them, or you transferred a car to them or something like that. The next section, the next question just deals with lawsuits or court actions that you've been involved with in the last year. So in all likelihood, you came to us because someone had filed a warrant in debt or a garnishment against you. That's a good place to mention it here on this screen. So just give us the name of the case, maybe the name of the creditor would be a good thing, and the city that it happened in. And then we can usually work with that. And then now this is dealing with any property that actually was repossessed, foreclosed, garnished, attached, or seized in the last 12 months. So if you had somebody who garnished you, but it's been more than a year since they've taken anything, then you can check no on this. And I'm not so much worried about the address, more so just the creditor name and what they did. So did they repossess a car or garnish your paycheck? And if it's still ongoing, then write ongoing on here. And it's important to note that this is a garnishment or a repossession that actually happened. So sometimes a creditor files a garnishment against you, but they accidentally send it to the wrong job or something like that. But if you didn't actually have money taken from you, then you don't need to fill it out here. A set off, so this would be like if you made a deposit at your bank and they used part of your money to pay a debt to themselves without asking you in the 90 days before filing, that would be a good example. In the last year, basically in the last year, has any of your property been in the possession of somebody else so your creditors could get it or something like that? In the last 2 years, have any individuals, charities, or churches received more than $600 in gifts from you? So like, let's say if you gave to multiple charities, but none of them received more than $600 individually, then you can check no on here. And then any losses that you had in the last year from fire, theft, gambling, or disaster, you make sure that you note any insurance coverage that you got. And again, remember, look at that last year. So if you lost something a couple years ago, we're not worried about it. And then payments made in the last year to someone who was helping you with bankruptcy. Usually the two that end up going on your petition are us and your the people who you do your credit counseling with. However, if you talked to anybody else and paid them to help you with bankruptcy in the year before we filed, we'll need to mention that on here. And then also mention anyone you paid in the last year who said they'd help you deal with your creditors or make payments to them. The best example of this would be like a credit consolidation agency. And then have you sold, traded, or transferred any property in the last couple of years? Like have you sold a car or a house or something like that? Definitely try to tell us what you received in exchange for it, because the court wants to make sure that you're not selling a car to a relative for $1 to keep it out of bankruptcy. Now, this one here, in the last 10 years, have you done a self-settled trust? In all likelihood, your answer is going to be no. A self-settled trust is basically where you make a trust for your own benefit. So you put money or other property into a trust for yourself and write on that trust that nothing in it can be used for the benefit of creditors. It doesn't work anyways. So yeah, that's what a self-settled trust is. In the last year, have you had any bank accounts or financial instruments like a brokerage account or something like that that was closed, sold, moved, or transferred? So it's not that you stopped using a bank account, it's that the account was flat out closed. And then just mention, in the last year, if you've had a safe deposit box or a storage unit, and if you still have it. Are you currently holding on to anybody else's property for them? Usually that's a no, but sometimes it's a yes. For these last ones, I just like to ask, have you ever had any issues with environmental law or hazardous material? Usually your answer is going to be no. And then let us know if you've owned your own business in the last 4 years. And if so, have you given anybody a financial statement about your business in the last 2 years? So usually, in my experience, the answer to most of these questions in this section of the questionnaire is no, but definitely don't assume they're no. If you're unsure, give us a call and we would be more than happy to help you clarify it. So that's it for the videos with this questionnaire. We hope that they've been very helpful for you.